I've said here on my channel and on my podcast on Blog Talk Radio, Heart Starboard Radio Network, and in Pixels at Political Pistachio up until about 3 months ago, that Donald Trump is in essence an amalgam of Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Bill Clinton in his proclivity for prevarication and in his womanizing, and Barack Obama in his utter lack of skill and yet rampant promiscuity at prevarication, and in, of course, his cosmic strutting narcissism. But there are two crucial differences between Obama and Trump. One, of course, is what we might refer to as epidermal hue. But the other is that Obama won and Trump is going down to crushing defeat in November. Remember this, Trumplicans, and never forget, Republicans don't get to take shortcuts. That's what Trump was. His celebrity shortcut. He can change the game, change the rules. No, Republicans don't get to take shortcuts. We have to earn it. Republicans are the adult party, the party of substance, or at least they used to be, and Trump supporters threw that overboard. And now we can see where it has gotten the GOP. The bottom line is Trump is losing and losing it, and he and his media enablers and his cultish supporters are going down and down hard. And it need never have happened if you had actually nominated a Republican. Now, every profession has its in-house lingo, as Kevin Williamson writes today at nationalreview.com, which may be confusing to amateurs. For example, in the world of campaign professionals, there's a term for a candidate who spends most of his time complaining about the media. Loser. You know that adage that if you're explaining, you're losing because you're on defense, because you're off message? I mean, I can't imagine another set of circumstances in which it's as difficult to be knocked off message when you're facing Hillary Clinton, a veritable smorgasbord, buffet of vulnerabilities and targets. And yet that's what Donald Trump has managed to do. And of course, he's of his own accord, he has said publicly he isn't really all that interested in attacking Hillary Clinton. But even if he was, and we all know why, because his role in this race was to sabotage the GOP and get Hillary Clinton elected. His good friend Hillary Clinton, I might add. But even if it wasn't, he doesn't know enough about policy to go after her anyway. All he knows how to do is call names and, corrupt Hillary. Well, yeah, she is corrupt, but that's, at this point, that's kind of redundant, as we discussed yesterday. I mean, it's priced into her stock. Whereas, in the public perception, Trump is so much worse. It's like P.J. O'Rourke said recently. Hillary Clinton is wrong on everything. She's awful, but she's awful within normal parameters. Trump is dangerous. He's awful, wrong about everything, but he's also dangerous. He's unfit. That's been kind of the point all along. Now, here's an example of what we're talking about in terms of complaining about the media. Remember when Bob Dole, back in 1996, plaintively said, "Where's the outrage?" The outrage about Bill Clinton's scandals in his first term. That's what he was talking about. Well, I mean, it was a legitimate question. Senator Dole is right to ask it. But that moment, and it's, Lord knows he wasn't the only one that asked that question over the years, but that moment also announced the effective end of the Dole presidential bid. See, he wasn't running against Bill Clinton anymore at that point, or even against the media, which is, after all, only a medium. He was running at that point against the American people because the American people were not buying what he was selling because they didn't see any need for it. I mean, typically, when the incumbent is running for re-election and the economy is perceived as being good, that's usually enough. Doesn't matter which party the incumbent is from. Doesn't matter. If the economy is perceived as being booming, then the incumbent usually wins, and the public sees no reason to change. And that was the case in 1996. Now, unless something radical and unexpected happens this time around, Donald Trump is going to lose the 2016 presidential election, as we all told you, Trump supporters. And he will lose it way more than Hillary Clinton will win it. Because Trump is the only candidate who ran in the GOP field whom Hillary Clinton could defeat. Any other Republican would have wiped up the floor with her. Hence the question, why are Trump supporters supporting Hillary in reality? Do they even realize it? Because that's what they're doing. Trump will lose the election more than Hillary will win it for more or less the same reasons that his critics on the right, holding up my hand, have been explaining for more than a year now. Frustratingly, desperately. In short, the sort of thing that makes hearts go pitter-patter out in Durka talk radio land does not necessarily fly in the rest of the country, outside the branch Trumpidian existential bubble. It may, in fact, even come off as creepy and weird and frightening and dangerous, which is why 3 times as many people watch some show called The Middle, which I've never heard of, as watch Sean Hannity's nightly Trump Fest on Fox News. There's more to America than your Uncle Bob's right-wing Facebook circle, Trumplicans, and neither you nor your Cheeto-dusted hero is very well prepared for that. Now, Hugh Hewitt, who is in the talk radio pantheon, he is probably the most adult of them all. He's an attorney. He's also a Republican Party hack, so that's how he could be never Trump during the primaries and turn around and try to defend Trump in the general so far. But the thing about Hugh Hewitt, though, is Hewitt doesn't, he remains substantive, unlike Sean Hannity. And now Double H found this out, that Trump is not serious. I don't think so much that he found it out as he found out just how entrenched Trump's unseriousness was. Hewitt found this out the hard way on his program the other day when he had Trump on. And the talk radio host was trying to help the Republican nominee explain away his absurd and surreal claim that Barack Obama is the founder of the Islamic State. Now, understand that to my ears, you would think, as I did, that Trump was exaggerating to make a point. I mean, heaven knows, as a blogger, I've done that often enough. When you say that Barack Obama is the founder of the Islamic State, the point you're trying to make is that the Islamic State most likely would not have arisen if not for Barack Obama's Iraq policy. And so by saying, well, Barack Obama, in other words, the words that are missing from that sentence, Barack Obama is the founder of the Islamic State, are might as well be. Barack Obama might as well be the founder of the Islamic State. That's what that phrase generally means in terms of hyperbole. And that's the lifeline that Hugh Hewitt tried to throw to Trump. He said, I know what you meant, Hewitt said. You meant that Obama created the vacuum in Iraq. He lost the peace, in other words. But Trump, being Trump, couldn't just say, yes, I was exaggerating to make a point. And that would have covered it. Can go forward, stay on message, stay on point, but no. Of course not. Trump has to be Trump, so Trump refused to take Hewitt's good counsel and doubled down on the ridiculousness instead. No, I meant he's the founder of ISIS, Trump insisted. Yes, I meant that. Thus taking the focus off of Barack Obama's disastrous Iraq policy, and his disastrous ISIS policy for that matter, and putting it on himself and whether or not he's got a few screws loosened at the top of Trump Tower. Now, Hewitt pointed out that Barack Obama does from time to time invest a fair amount of time and energy in pretending to kill Islamic State operatives. And Trump said, and I quote, I don't care. That is nothing more than that puerile, narcissistic, ego-driven stubbornness, pride, and you all know what the book of Proverbs says about pride. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Now, many Americans' only metaphysical experience in this life will have been seeing with the mind's eye Hugh Hewitt wincing through the radio. He was trying to help Trump. Trump didn't want to be helped. Trump either knows he's knowingly and deliberately sabotaging his own campaign in order to get Hillary Clinton elected, or he is just so narcissistic that he won't even accept help when he's fallen down the steps, metaphorically, and pooped his pants. And it's probably some of both. Trump had been halfway following the advice of Benjamin Disraeli, even though he's almost certainly never heard of him. And by the way, for those of you in Malaga, Washington, Benjamin Disraeli was a late 19th century British prime minister. Anyway, Disraeli once said, quote, never complain, never explain, which was his version of, if you're explaining yourself, you're losing. You're on defense. Well, Trump can't help but complain. But now he's in explaining himself mode as well. The blue plate special of defeat. When his remarks on Barack Obama and the Islamic State were greeted as yet another piece of evidence that Donald J. Trump may in fact be batshit crazy, he started backing away from his claim, waving his hands and calling it sarcastic. You can see how Trump has completely foobarred this whole gambit. All he had to say was Barack Obama's Iraq policy of cut and run, of retreat, created the vacuum that allowed and facilitated the rise of the Islamic State. That's all he had to say. That's all he had to say, and tie it to Hillary. It would have been one piece in a long chain of things that you can tie to Hillary like an anchor. Instead, he exaggerated, he screwed it up, took the focus off of Barack Obama, off of Hillary Clinton, off of that awful, disastrous Iraq policy, onto his questionable mental stability and ego, and highlighting for all to see, once again, redundantly, his manifest unfitness for the office of President of the United States, which is probably, in terms of different aspects of the polls, his biggest deficit to Hillary Clinton. Is that people look at her and whatever else, they don't trust her, they don't like her, they can't stand her, she's Nurse Ratched, etc., etc., etc. They rate her as having a presidential temperament and him as not having one. And that is a big factor in this election. In other words, rather than just simply leveling the substantive criticism at Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, Trump made it all about himself and all his biggest liabilities and weaknesses. Now, that is either incompetence as a candidate on a level that had heretofore been unimaginable, or he is deliberately trying to get Hillary Clinton elected. And all you Trumplicans facilitated this and are facilitating this. Why are you Trump supporters supporting Hillary Clinton? Why are you helping Hillary Clinton? Because that's what you're doing. That's what you have done. That's what you're continuing to do. Trump's descent into full-bore toddler mode is not unexpected. He already is making excuses for losing in November and boasting. Now get this, Trump supporters. We talked about this in an earlier video. Boasting that it doesn't matter that much to him if he loses because, as he put it, I go back to a very good way of life. I thought with Trump supporters, I thought you were all about stopping Hillary. You gotta get behind Trump because we gotta stop Hillary. Doesn't sound to me like Trump is all that concerned about stopping Hillary. And if you Trump supporters were honest about it, you would agree with me. You would say the same thing. Why isn't Donald Trump, your hero, your candidate, why isn't he as red alert, top priority, balls to the wall, stop Hillary at all costs as you people claim to be? He seems kind of blasé about it. Win, lose, what's the difference? I don't care. Yeah, he'll go back to his very good way of life, but all you Trump supporters, you'll go back to seeing all of our liberties curtailed and our constitutional order perverted by an old-fashioned Democrat machine politician whom you will have helped to get elected, who could have been beaten by a dozen actual conservatives from whom Republicans had the opportunity to choose, but instead decided to commit electoral and political suicide. Seppuku. Harry Carey. You know, the race in Ohio will probably be decided to a large part in Hamilton County, where Trump has not bothered to set up an actual campaign operation. Did you see, as a matter of fact, or late last week, a Trump campaign official, I forget which one it was, but he said, and this is a verbatim quote, "We don't need to get out the vote operation." He's not trying to win, folks. He got what he wanted. He took over the Republican Party, sabotaged it, and now he's guaranteeing Hillary Clinton's election. The candidate you Trump supporters shoved down our throats. You're the ones responsible for this. We warned you. You wouldn't listen. As of early August, the Trump campaign had one staffer. One. In all of Southwest Ohio. In Florida, where Trump is down at 39%, his campaign had one field office as of last week. One in the entire state. Trump is getting killed in Virginia, North Carolina, Colorado, where Mrs. Clinton leads him by an average of 14 percentage points, and where Trump's field operation is in terms of personnel and offices, only a fraction of what La Clinton Nostra has put on the ground, because they are serious about winning. They do want to win, and they know how to do it. Like manipulating Trump into jumping into the GOP side of the race in order to sabotage it and pave the way for a Clinton restoration. Now, you can complain that the media is unfair to Republicans. It is. Been that way for, since before I was born. I'm 52 years old. It's been that way since before I was born. There's nothing new about that. Of course the media is unfair to Republicans. The media is left-wing. It's biased. It's no longer the fourth estate. It's the fifth column. Always has been in the modern era. But it's not the media that's stopping Trump from organizing the basics of a presidential campaign. You can only throw out the rules for so long. Trump is set to lose Georgia. Georgia. Election projection just flipped Georgia to Hillary Clinton's column. They are now projecting that Hillary will defeat Trump by a 51 to 43% margin, with the remaining 6% being divvied up between Libertarian Gary Johnson and the Bolshevik candidate Jill Stein. 51-43 and 357 to 181 in the Electoral College. I don't know what else to tell you. Trump probably will end up winning Texas and Utah, but it's not inconceivable that he could lose them as well. I mean, losing Texas and Utah, Georgia already leaning Hillary. When are you people going to figure this out? Trump supporters, I mean. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that Trump people were talking about, wow, we're going to bring all kinds of blue states into play. We're going to win New York. We're going to carry California. We're going to carry Connecticut. Losing Georgia, maybe losing Kansas, maybe losing Texas, Utah. When I say frustration, that I cannot say that in a way that doesn't sound like an understatement. Even I cannot adequately convey what an unmitigated and outrageous disaster that Trump supporters have foisted upon the rest of us. Yeah, all that brave talk about the New Yorker making the race competitive in northern Democrat strongholds. Let's see. Hillary is up 21 points in the latest New Jersey poll, 17 points in the latest New York poll, 10 points in the latest Michigan poll, 25 points in the latest from Illinois. The only Democrat states Trump currently is winning are the ones that were really Democrat until about 1994 or so. And he's not even doing that great there either. He's only 3 points ahead in Mississippi. Trump cannot imagine, cannot even entertain the notion, his narcissism will not permit it, that this is his own fault. Or he won't publicly admit it anyway. It's like Hitler refusing to admit that World War II was lost. He's sitting in the bunker in Berlin with Russian shells falling above his head, strategizing with huge armies that no longer existed, and he refused to accept it. And when he did accept that the war was lost, that's when he went down and blew his own head off. And that mentality of just your narcissism, your ego not permitting you to accept reality. That's what Trump's in right now, unless, of course, he's been a Democrat plant all along. I can just, if and when that comes out, after all this is over, oh boy. The I told you so, well, the I told you so's are already flying. By the time it's all over, they'll be redundant. I mean, Trump blames the media for making him look nuts by reporting the things he says, which are nuts. Talking with Hannity, he moaned, I'll say something at a rally and I look out and see all these TV cameras taking every word down. No one in politics has ever been subjected to this kind of treatment. This is what he said to Hannity. No one in politics has ever been subjected to the kind of treatment that he is receiving now. Except every Republican presidential candidate of the modern era. But other than that, okie dokie. Most recently, Trump has been looking for an excuse to skip the debates against Hillary Rodham Clinton, clearly terrified that she is going to hand him his ass. And she would. Because whatever you think of Hillary, and I can't stand Hillary either, I mean, she would have all the substance that he would not. I mean, you get it to a certain point, and it's no longer about personality cults, because, you see, that's the other difference between Obama and Trump. Obama's personality cult was huge. Trump's little. 10% of the electorate tops overall. That's the size of Trump's personality cult. That's not big enough. That was a personality cult to win a party nomination. That was not a personality cult to get elected president. And thematically, what was Obama's campaign in 2008 about? It was about hope! Hope and change! Yes, we can! It was all BS. But it had the right sound to it. It had the right, optimistic, uplifting, soaring. What is optimistic, uplifting, or soaring about Donald Trump? Donald Trump is all about anger, rage, which has now been sated because the Republican Party has been destroyed, in effect. And yet he's terrified that of a debate with Hillary Clinton. Trying to come up with any excuse he can to get out of it. I don't know, man. I mean, does anybody think Ted Cruz would have been looking for an excuse to dodge a debate with Mrs. Clinton? Oh my God, he'd have been asking for 40 of them. He would have wanted 3 debates a day between now and Election Day. Can you imagine Ted Cruz going up against Hillary Clinton in a one-on-one debate? Oh, man. That would have belonged on pay-per-view. Trump and Hillary. Well, I'm sure the Democrats would buy the pay-per-views in that instance. It's too early to begin the bloody and tearful recriminations, although they're already underway anyway. But there will be a time, and there will be a reckoning. Not to blame Trump for being Trump, which is exactly what anybody with a lick of sense would and should expect him to be. But those who enabled him, who plumped him, and the largely fictitious establishment versus the base soap opera for their own personal audience building and money-making agendas, we're going to need to have a word about them and with them come November. And that's right, Douglas V. Gibbs. That includes me and yours truly.